Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Fiction Marketing Academy presentation on book launches. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ricardo Fayet. I'm one of the four founders at readsy.com. You've got my email address right there in the slide, so if you have any questions about the presentation, don't hesitate to send them over to me. For those of you who don't know what Readsy does, we're mostly known for our marketplace. So it's one of the best places probably where you can come in and get quotes and hire any professional you would ever need throughout your writing career. So that's like editors, proofreaders, indexers, cover designers, illustrators, marketers, translators, ghostwriters, website designers, etc. So if you're starting out and you don't know where to find your editor or designer, you can come in and like get quotes from vetted professionals through our marketplace. And if you're further along in your career, you can look into translators or website designers for direct sales shop, things like that. And another thing we're known for is our free writing tool, the Readsy Book Editor. So that's an outlining, writing, and formatting tool. So you can use it to write from any device and for free. So it's accessible from smartphone, iPad, any device. And you can set writing goals. You can say, okay, I want to write 10,000 words by the end of this week. And the tool will calculate how many words you have to write per day. And if you miss a word count one day, you'll get a little email pestering you the next day. Hey, you didn't meet your writing goal, but here's how many goals you now need to write per week to meet your goal. So I used it actually to write one book on Amazon Ads, and it works quite well as a motivation and accountability tool. And we recently added plotting and outlining features to the Readsy Book Editor. So you can now create boards for your plot or for characters, for locations, link different boards together. And yeah, it's pretty powerful now for plotting as well. It remains free. So give it a try if you haven't, and it also exports for free to both EPUB and print-ready PDF. So if you haven't invested in tools like Vellum or Atticus, it's definitely worth checking it out and see if it can work for you. Now, today we're going to focus all on book launches. So we're going to cover 5 main things. First, and by far the most important, is what you need way before you plan your book launch, right? Your target market, retailer optimization, metadata reviews, all that. Then we're going to talk about how to actually plan the successful book launch, and then we're going to delve into the channels you can leverage to generate sales at launch, both inbound channels and outbound channels. And finally, I'll finish on like when and why it can make sense sometimes to hire professional help. All right, so what do you need to have before you launch your book? That's a big question, right? And to answer that question, I like to use this little equation, which is basically the equation of how an author makes a living, right? An author makes a living from book sales, and where do book sales come from? They come as a result of 3 factors: traffic, conversion, and virality. Traffic is what we tend to mistakenly associate entirely with the marketing, right? And it's like, how do we get people to our book pages, to our Amazon book page or to our Apple book page, Google Play page, etc.? Or if you're selling in stores, right, and physical retailers, how do we get traffic, like actual people to walk in the store and check out our book, right? But traffic is only one part of the equation. Once you've got people to check out your book page, you want those people to buy. And that's where conversion comes into play. Conversion their conversion rate is basically out of the amount of people who view your book page, how many of them do you actually buy the book, right? Conversion is even more important than traffic, as we'll see in the next slide. But there's something that trumps the importance of conversion, and that's virality, right? Virality, you can also think about it as word of mouth. And it's what's illustrated on the slide. If you get one reader to pick up and read your book, and that reader loves it enough that they recommend it to 3 other readers, right? And each of these 3 other readers loves it so much that they also recommend it to 3 other readers each, then sales start to snowball, and you're in this situation where you can just like lie down on your couch, refresh your Amazon book rank, and see it go up and up and up and up and up without you having to do anything in terms of marketing, because your readers are doing the marketing for you. So this is obviously like an ideal, right? A utopian almost situation, but it happens. It happens. That's how the big bestsellers, like the breakout international bestsellers, were born. They were born through word of mouth. They weren't born through publishers' ability to be amazing at marketing. Obviously, you need that push in terms of traffic in the beginning, but you, more importantly than that, you need great conversion and you need that virality element. So the best tip by far that I can give you for a successful book launch is to write a really, really, really good book that's going to resonate so much with its target audience that that audience is going to carry the word of mouth for you. That's going to make a launch a lot easier, right? And you realize once you've started, once you've published, 3, 5, 10 books across different series, you'll see that certain books or certain series just naturally do a lot better than others, and sometimes there's not a lot of explanation for that, right? The only explanation is that they resonated more with readers, right? So there goes the first tip. Obviously, I'm not an expert on craft, so I'm not gonna delve deeper into that. But I will say that the more you invest in your craft, the better you'll become at writing, and that's actually the number one step to successful marketing. Now, I was talking about the importance of conversion as well, right? For me, virality is number one in importance, but conversion is second. And the reason for that can be illustrated through this little exercise, right? Imagine that you are a giant retailer, you're Amazon, right? You're Amazon, and you send emails every day to millions of readers recommending them books, okay? So now you recommend these books, obviously based on your data, right? The data you have on sales. So now you have these two books, and you have to pick one of these two books to send as a recommendation in an email to 1,000,000 readers or 100,000 readers, right, in that genre. So the first book has sold 100,000 copies in the last month. So it sold a ton of copies, right? And 1 out of 10 readers viewing its page purchased it. So that's a 10% conversion rate, which is actually really good. And the second book has only sold 10,000 copies, so it hasn't sold nearly as much as the first one. But it has a conversion rate of 20%. 2 out of 10 readers viewing its page purchased it. So if you were Amazon and you had to email your like a segment of your audience to recommend a book, which one would you recommend? Right. And obviously this is a simplistic exercise, but I'm guessing you picked the second book, right? The second book that has a better conversion rate because it has been exposed. The only reason why it sold fewer copies than the first one is that it has been exposed to fewer people, right? But in that to those fewer people that it's been exposed, it has had an amazing conversion rate, twice that of the first one. So if you're a retailer and you have smart algorithms like most retailers actually do, you want to promote this second book. And that's why conversion is so important, because if you manage to have a high conversion rate on your page, you're sending a really, really strong signal to the retailers for them to keep recommending your book or to start recommending your book. So what can you do to nail the conversion, right, of your book? It's all about the product page, right? When people click on your ad or view your book somewhere, view your TikTok video, they then land on your Amazon book page or any other retailer page. Here I'm talking about Amazon because it's the main retailer, but this advice is applicable to any other retailer out there, right? So they land on your page, and their decision to buy the book or not is going to be impacted almost exclusively by what they see on the page, right? So you need to, every now and then, do a review of your books, do kind of an audit of your Amazon book pages, and answer the following questions, right? By order of importance. Does the book cover attract the right kind of readers? Does it convey the genre? And on the book cover, there's the title as well, right? I'm not including the title something different because it's on the cover. And here, this example is great by this book by K.F. Breen, because it's called Magical Midlife Madness. You can see it clearly on the cover. And this book is paranormal women's fiction, right? And it does an amazing job through just the title to tell readers exactly what this book is about. Magical midlife madness is another way of saying basically paranormal women's fiction. Magical, paranormal. Midlife, women's fiction, right? So just from the title, it gives a super strong signal as to who its target audience is. If you're a paranormal women's fiction reader, you know that this book is for you, right? Then comes the blurb, right? The next thing you're going to do as a reader is look at the blurb. So you start reading a woman starting over, a new house with an unexpected twist, magical element, a cape-wearing butler acting as the world's worst life coach, element of humor, which is really important in women's fiction. A woman starting over, it starts with a woman starting over. That's the definition of midlife women's fiction. So just the first sentence of the blurb again reinforces what the book is about and hooks people, right? I want to know what this cape wearing butler worst life coach is all about, right? So just the first line of the blurb does a really good job at hooking people, and then you keep reading the blurb and you're probably hooked. And what are you going to do next? Well, you're going to check the price, right? If you're sensitive to price, you're going to look at the price. It's at $3.99. Okay, most books, series starters in that genre. Also, it's a fairly well-known author. So okay, it's an okay price. Format availability is also important. Some readers will want to read ebook. Others will want to listen to an audiobook. Others will want to read a paperback. Others will want a hardback. You can publish all those formats for pretty much free, except for the audiobook, right? The audiobook requires a money investment, which can be worth it just to have all those formats out there at launch. But that's probably for more like people who can already afford that. But for ebook, paperback, and hardback, there's almost zero additional cost to get the paperback and the hardback there. You need your cover designer to do the wraparound cover, right? To do the spine and the back cover, but that's it. So do that. Make sure that when you launch, you have the ebook, you have the paperback, and you have the hardback. Now with Amazon, you have the option to schedule print releases. It's not exactly print pre-orders, but you can schedule them so that everything goes live exactly on the same day. You want that. You want as many formats as possible to be available. Then, okay, I'm hooked by the blurb, right? The price is okay. I'm going to look at the reviews. What are other readers saying about this? There's both customer reviews and editorial reviews. When you scroll down on an Amazon book page, you get to the editorial reviews before you get to the customer reviews. And guess what? You control the editorial reviews, right? So make sure to use those. And then if I'm convinced by all of that, the next thing I'm going to logically do is look inside the book. So now it's called read sample, right? So I read the sample of the book. I open the book on Amazon. I start reading, and those first few pages are basically going to decide whether I buy the book or not. If I am hooked by the first few pages, just as I was hooked by the blurb, then I'm going to buy the book, right? So make sure that these first few pages are really working well to immediately getting the reader into, the action, into the mood of the book, so that they want to keep reading. Then there's other elements like the Amazon A+ content or author bio that are not as important in my opinion. You got to be careful with A+ content, because if it doesn't look great, it can really affect your conversion rate quite negatively. But if it's executed right, it can improve it a little bit. Generally, I recommend using A+ Amazon ads to test A+ content. So you run Amazon ads before you put the A+ content, and you check the conversion of the ads before and after. Without touching the ads in any way, right? For a week before, a week after, and you check the conversion. If there's any negative difference in conversion, then you will want to rethink your A+ content. Right. So that's it for conversion. Now we're going to go into kind of the metadata, right? Because as we're going to see, sorry. If you manage to get some sales of the book, Amazon's going to want to recommend that book, right? Or if you have a high conversion rate, Amazon's going to want to keep recommending that book. So here we're going to see different factors of metadata that will decide how Amazon will recommend your book, and that you can use to maximize the power of retailer recommendations. The first one is price, right? Price is a super important factor in purchase behavior. So before you set the price of your book, whether it's for the launch or for a promo that you run at launch, you want to check out what the other prices of the books are in your top category. Here we can see the book by K.F. Breen is at $3.99. It's actually below all the other top sellers, which granted, a lot of them are traditionally published, but not necessarily, right? We see here Zodiac Academy by Carolyn Peckham. That's at $7.99 as an ebook. And that's actually a really good sign. I'm seeing more and more indie published ebooks, granted by fairly big names in the industry, being priced at $6.99, $7.99, $8.99, sometimes $9.99. All the prices for everything else are going up right now, so the prices for books should go up as well. Indie authors have this great advantage of price versus traditional publishers, but that doesn't mean that we should all be pricing our books at $2.99. No, readers can buy books and will buy books at higher price points if they really like the authors. So don't hesitate to experiment with higher price points, basically. Next thing, metadata-wise, is categories, right? So Amazon has recently reworked how you can select categories, but on the reader-facing side of on the consumer-facing side, it's still the same. Customers can browse the store and can select their categories from the left sidebar. What has worked for the authors? Well, before you could only select 2 categories when you uploaded your book or you updated it, and then you had to email KDP support to request more categories, up to 10. Now, there's some bad news. You're restricted to only 3 categories per book and format, but the good news is you can pick those directly when you upload the book or when you update your book from your KDP bookshelf. And the categories that you can select when uploading your book pretty much match the categories that are on the consumer side. Not perfectly. There's some kind of ghost categories out there. There's some categories that are not selectable. It's not 100% perfect, but it's a million times better than it was, right? So for those of you who already have books in like 10 categories, you will retain all your existing ones, or your existing 10 categories, unless you update your product in the KDP bookshelf. But you will only rank in 3 categories chosen by Amazon, a little bit at random. So my advice to you, for those of you who have books ranking in who have books listed in like 10 categories, is check on your book page which 3 categories you're ranking in. If these 3 categories are relevant to your book, then don't touch anything, because being in other categories, even if you don't rank in them, is still beneficial. You're still up here in the popularity list and a few other places. However, if the 3 categories you rank in are not super relevant, right? Update your book on KDP and actually select the 3 categories that are most relevant to you, because you want the ranking, the three categories that you rank in, to be as relevant as possible. It's interesting actually to look at the impact of that category change. So basically, in September 2022, Amazon made a change where however many categories your book was in, you could only rank in 3, right? So that was the first change. And then in April, May of this year, 2023, Amazon introduced that second change where you can actually select the 3 categories that you want your book to be listed in. It's maximum 3, and you will rank in those 3 categories. So the actual change in terms of like the store itself, or how books are ranked in categories, happened in September last year. And it's very interesting to look at this graph by Klytics, which I highly recommend as and kind of, if you want reports on Amazon data, or in your genre in particular, that you create genre reports. But he did this like one-off look into the impact of that category change. And it's really interesting to look at the teen and YA category as a whole. You know, as soon as Amazon introduced this change of like books can rank in a maximum of 3 categories, the average bestseller rank of the top books in the teen and YA category dropped like crazy, right? Why is that? Because a lot of books that were previously ranking in teen and YA, because they were in a bunch of different categories, in particular traditionally published books that were in more than 10 categories. And now, since the change, if you want to be in teen and YA, all your categories have to be teen and YA. So automatically, Amazon has removed a bunch of books from the teen and YA categories, which has made these categories a lot less competitive, basically. that has happened to other genres as well, and it's happened in a lot of niches as well. A lot of books that were um, in niches like, I don't know, Arthurian fantasy, for example. I don't know if at some point you had Harry Potter in Arthurian fantasy just because Harry Potter was in every possible fantasy subcategory. Now it's not there anymore, right? Because it's been restricted to 3 categories only. So that's basically made categories a lot less competitive, niche categories. So I think it's a positive change. Now, how do you pick your 3 categories? I recommend using Publisher Rocket for that. They've got a really good tool to analyze categories. Otherwise, just go through the store manually if you don't want to invest in Publisher Rocket. Look at all the categories and pick the 3 most relevant ones. Now, keywords. Keywords are another way that Amazon uses to decide who to recommend your book to, and in particular, how to showcase books in search results. So if someone searches for something using the Amazon search bar, Amazon has to decide which books to showcase in the search results. Keywords, the 7 KDP keywords that you can pick, play an important role for that. And again, what I'm saying about keywords and categories here, it's applicable to all the other retailers. Here I'm focusing on the Amazon algorithms, but the other retailer algorithms work in a similar fashion. They have certain differences when it comes to keywords though. So do your own research on each retailer, but at least here, I'll tell you how Amazon's one works. So the way KDP keywords work is a keyword phrase will get your book indexed for any combination of the words included in the phrase. And the important word here is indexed, right? Index means if someone searches for a particular search term, if your book is indexed for it, it means that it will show up in the search results. It is indexed for that keyword. It doesn't mean that it's going to show up number 1, right? That would be ranking high for that keyword. It just means it is indexed, it shows up somewhere. It's maybe page 1, it may be page 1000, right? Okay, but the first step is being indexed, of course. So a keyword phrase will get your book index for any combination of the words included in the phrase. If we look at the keywords here, we have, for example, mythical creature, fantasy, dragon. That's a keyword, right, that I've selected. Just by using this keyword, right, this keyword phrase, this will get my book index for all the following searches: mythical creature, mythical dragon, fantasy dragon. Yeah, it's pretty much it. Usually in order. If we look at Arthurian Knights Roundtable Sword Quest, it's going to get my book index for Arthurian Quest, Arthurian Knights, Roundtable Quest, Sword Quest, Arthurian Sword, etc. Right? So any combination of those words in order. That is why it is usually a good idea to use long keyword phrases, right, in your KDP keywords, because that will maximize the amount of potential search terms that your book will be indexed for. The exception to that, there are 2 exceptions to that. First one is if you really, really want to rank for a keyword, a particular search term. So if I really wanted to rank, for example, for romantic epic tale, right? So if I really wanted to rank for romantic epic tale, what I would do actually is including the term romantic epic tale either in the subtitle or the series title of the book. Exact or phrase matches in the title or series title will always give a really, really big boost in the search algorithm for that book. So if actually you can do this little experiment, search on Amazon for romantic epic tale or any kind of combination like that you want to search for, and you'll see that most of the books that show up in the search results, that show up high in the search results, have exactly those words in either the subtitle or the series title. But if I was using something different as a subtitle or series title, and I still wanted to rank pretty high for romantic epic tale, I would dedicate one of the 7 KDP keywords just to that, right? I would have just romantic epic tale as one KDP keyword, because that will also give a little boost. That exact match will give a little boost. The second exception to using long keyword phrases is if you really want to rank high in a sidebar tick category as well, right? So sidebar tick categories are a great way to find keywords. what I call those is like if you browse the Amazon store, right? You go to a category like romance, for example, you scroll down in the sidebar and you're going to see those tick categories that I call, yeah, tick categories because it's a tick box. So you can see here romantic heroes, wealthy, alpha males, cowboys, BBW, criminals and outlier, etc. And then romantic themes, second chances, secret baby, workplace, wedding, etc. So if you cannot actually pick those categories when you select your categories on KDP, right? In order to get your book into those categories, you have to use the right keywords. So if I wanted to make sure that my book would be in the bikers category, for example, bikers tech category, I would use bikers as one of the KDP keywords here. If you use it within a longer keyword phrase, it should still work. But if you really want to, rank high for the bikers keyword, then you could consider using it on its own in one of the 7 boxes. Now, we're going to talk about also bots. So also bots are basically Amazon's internal way of mapping out how books relate to each other. Also bots are basically if I as a reader buy a book and then I buy another book, right? I buy book A and then I go on and buy book B, then Amazon is going to create those relationship of like this reader bought A and then also bought book B. So when the actual customers who bought this item also bought section shows up on book pages, it can inform you, it can tell you how your book, where Amazon considers that your book fits in the overall market, what your other comp titles are according to Amazon. Also bots do not always show up on product pages now. Sometimes you see customers who viewed this item also viewed. Sometimes it's who read this item also read. Sometimes it's like similar books, which is not exactly a form of also bot, but it's pretty close. But in any case, what we know is that also bots are always there, at least in the background, and they're Amazon's way of deciding who to recommend, which books to recommend to whom, right? So with that in mind, it is incredibly important not to mess up your also bots. I'll give you an example. If I've written cozy mystery, right, and I want to promote it at launch, so I do a price promo that we're going to see afterwards, and then I book. I want to book a big price promo. Let's imagine BookBub. You're probably not going to get a BookBub, but let's imagine I want to get a BookBub. So you apply, and I know that actually the thriller category is a lot less competitive than the cozy mystery. Again, making this up, but not true. So I apply for the thriller category, and I get the BookBub. So suddenly I get that BookBub deal, and obviously I get thousands of sales at launch. But those thousands of sales, who happens to buy my book? Thriller readers, right? Not cozy mystery readers. Thriller readers. They just buy it because it's been advertised in a BookBub feature deal to them, and it probably doesn't sound right up their alley, but it's at $0.99, so they purchase it, and that's it. But what happens then is that your also bots are going to start populating with thriller books because these readers who just purchased your book on discount are all thriller readers, right? And so Amazon is going to understand that your cozy mystery is actually a thriller because all of its also bots are thrillers. So it is going to, and because it's selling well, right? It's going to start recommending your book. It will recommend your book to whom? To other thriller readers. What's going to happen then when your book goes back to full price? Thriller readers are not going to be interested because it's a cozy mystery, right? So they're not going to purchase. So Amazon will send an email maybe to 10,000 readers saying, hey, this book could be good for you. Have you checked it out? And none of these 10,000 readers is going to purchase your book. So Amazon's going to think, okay, there's something weird happening here, but this book is a loser. I will never recommend this book again. And that is what happens when you mess up, when you pollute your also bots. You basically screw with Amazon's recommendation engine, and they will stop recommending your book, right? You can get into a period where you get zero sales, and it's really hard to revert afterwards. You need to generate a lot of sales to counter the impact of a price promo gone to the wrong audience. So it's really important to take care of your also bots as soon as you launch, and I'll give you a few tips on how to do that through this presentation. All right, so we've covered what I think is the most important part, is like how to really nail every aspect of your product page before you launch, every aspect of your book even before you launch, because that is going to decide mostly whether your launch is going to be a success or not. Then come the reviews and the marketing plan. So obviously you want to be able to get as many reviews as possible short time after launch or even before your launch. The best way to achieve that is to build a street team. Now, if you've been publishing books for years and you have an established audience and you know you're going to get 20 reviews organically when you launch, you probably don't need a street team, right? But if you're starting out, you definitely want that. Otherwise, you'll launch and it'll probably be several weeks until you get, your first 5 reviews, and you don't want that. You want reviews as soon as possible after launch. So what's a street team? A street team is basically a group of people who can provide feedback and get the ball rolling with word of mouth. At a very basic level, this usually means writing reviews of your book. So it's a group of people who get your book before everyone else, right? They get an advanced reader copy of your book, and in exchange for that, they promise to leave an honest review of the book once it hits the retailers, once it launches. So where do you find people like that, right? Usually you start with friends and family who read books in your genre. Remember the also books, you want readers in your genre. Also, if they're going to review your book and give you feedback on it, you actually want people who read your genre, who are familiar with it. Don't just share your book with all your cousins, even if they couldn't care less about it. You can try online communities, Facebook communities, readers in your genre. If you're active on social media, like if you're a book talker or like an Instagrammer and you have a network there, you can talk about that there and ask for advance whether people want to join your street team. You can also look at Amazon Goodreads reviewers in your genre and contact them. One of the best kind of people you can have in your street team is other indie or trad-pubbed authors in your genre, because their feedback and their review will carry a lot more weight, right? Their feedback will be much more interesting to you because they're actually authors, and their review will carry a lot more weight to readers if they're well-known authors, right? And then you can also use ARC sites, advanced reader copy sites like Booksprout, NetGalley, Hidden Gems, to try and get people to join your street team. NetGalley is quite expensive, so that's why some people put together co-ops where several authors join in to share the cost. Just Google NetGalley co-op and you'll find some of those opportunities. So once you've got kind of your street team, there's actually a very simple strategy to get customer reviews even before the launch of your book. And the strategy goes like this. So first, you set the ebook on pre-order a while before. I suggest a month prior to the launch, right? Pre-orders are amazing for wide platforms, Apple, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, etc., especially Apple and Kobo. That's where pre-orders are most powerful. They're not as powerful on Amazon, right? But they're also not really going to hurt you, okay? So it won't hurt you to put an ebook on pre-order 1 month prior to launch. Then what you do is you launch a paperback around 1 week before the ebook, right? So when a product on Amazon is on pre-order, people cannot review it because people cannot purchase. Actually, they can pre-order it, but they cannot purchase it. So Amazon blocks the reviews. However, if a product is live, right, like the paperback, it goes live 1 week before the ebook. So as soon as the paperback is live, people can leave a review on the paperback. And the paperback is linked to the ebook because it's the same book, right? So as soon as the paperback goes live, you ask your street team to review the paperback on Amazon, to basically review your book on Amazon. And that will populate reviews on your paperback and ebook and hardback even before your ebook actually launches, even before the launch date of the ebook. Obviously, this is like a strategy for people whose main format is ebooks. if you sell more print books than ebooks, usually, for example, in certain nonfiction genres, then you would do the opposite, right? You would launch the ebook 1 week before the paperback, use that to accumulate reviews, and then launch the paperback with reviews on it already. The reason for that is that you've got 30 days after book releases, after the launch date, after your product, right, releases, ebook or paperback, hardback, to generate as many sales as possible. Because that's the period during which Amazon's going to reward you the most with visibility. You're going to be eligible for the hot new releases list, for example, which is a huge driver of visibility on the store. And all other retailers also give a ton of visibility to new releases during the first 30 days after the release. That's like universal across retailers, right? So you want to put together a launch plan to make the most of those first 30 days and make sure that, as we saw, you have reviews right after you launch, right? So why put together a launch plan? I like this quote from Rachel Abbott, which is one of the highest well, she's hybrid now, but she was one of the first authors to reach #1 on Amazon.co.uk with an indie published book, right? So she's one of the highest sellers in the UK store. And she says, I spent far too long being completely unfocused. And it was only when I wrote a marketing plan with very specific aims and objectives that things started to happen. Suddenly, people noticed my book. The tactics were working. And then it got to #1 in the Kindle chart and stayed there for 4 weeks, right? So this goes to show the importance of planning, which is what this presentation is all about. It's how do you plan a launch? Well, you want to put together an actual marketing plan, an actual document that explains exactly what you're going to do and when and with which aim, right? What your goals are. I said that the aim of your marketing plan is to generate as many sales as possible during the first 30 days after the launch. But a side objective should be to avoid spikes, right? If you concentrate all your marketing activity on the first day of the launch to get as many sales as possible on the first day, and then don't have any channels left, just stop talking about it on the second day, what's going to happen is you're going to get a spike on the first day and then nothing afterwards. And what happens with spikes is they tend to get ignored by all the retailers, right? Amazon in particular. If Amazon sees that a book is selling consistently 10 books a day and suddenly on one day sells 1,000 copies and the next day goes back to 10, they are going to pretty much ignore that spike, right? It's not going to have any impact on their algorithms and may have a -1 because they will feel like you're trying to manipulate the rank, right? They're going to construe it as rank manipulation, which you don't want. So instead, what you want is to generate a plateau or a bell curve, right? And that is, I sell 10 books on day 1, then 20 on day 2, then 30, then 50, then 100, then 200, then 100 again, then 50, etc. So you get that kind of, bell curve. And that goes a high plateau of book sales, a sustained level of sales over several days will get you the maximum amount of organic visibility on any retailer, but in particular Amazon, right? So how you plan for the bell curve? Well, you put together a launch plan like this. This is something that I put together for an author. It doesn't look pretty, right? It's very much my way of doing things in a spreadsheet. Yours can be in another document. You can use Notion. If you like Notion, you can use anything you like, or Trello to put this together. But ideally, you want something that details what you're going to do on each day and which channels you're going to activate. And ideally, in the back of your mind, you should have an idea of like how many sales you want each channel to generate, right? All right. So how do you put this together? The first step, in my opinion, to a successful book launch, right, or book launch plan, is to offer a deal or more. That is to run a price promotion. Obviously, you might have heard that 10 years ago, just putting a book at $0.99 or free was enough to get a ton of sales or downloads. That is not the case anymore. But that doesn't mean that price promotions are not effective anymore. It just means that the market is more competitive, but price promotions are still very effective, right? Price promotions are by far the best way to get traffic. Discounting your book is by far the best way to get traffic, or setting it to free. It has several upsides on top of like getting you a ton of traffic. One of them is that your street team will be able to purchase at a discount, right? So suddenly, if you launch your book at $0.99, you can tell your street team, or free, you can tell your street team, hey, you can leave a review now, actually, and that will be a verified review because they can, purchase it at 0.99. It's not a big ask, or they can download it for free if it's free. And suddenly what would have been a non-verified review will become a verified purchase review, which holds more weight. Price promotions, discounts are going to work even more effectively for Amazon if you're in Kindle Unlimited. The reason for that is that you get a wave of page reads after the promo ends if it's successful. And also, it doesn't hurt at all your Kindle Unlimited income, right? If 80% of your income comes from KU reads, running a price promo is only going to affect the remaining 20% of your income. People in KU will keep borrowing the book in KU, right? Whether your book is at $0.99 or $3.99. So it doesn't have any negative impact during the promotion on your KU income. And then after the promo, you usually get a big wave of page reads. So aggressive price promos work really well if you're in KU. And the best thing is they allow you to boost sales across your entire series, right? And that's what we're going to see now. The series trickle-down effect. You will have probably seen, if you've released series in the past, that you get a boost in sales every time you release a new book in the series. Not just a boost in sales of the book you're launching, but also on all the previous books. So here, for example, when I launch book 4, obviously, when I launch book 4, I get a boost in sales of book 1, book 2, and book 3, and obviously, I get sales of book 4. So every time you release a book, you boost the visibility of all the previous books in the series. And usually your graphs end up looking somewhat like that. This is obviously an exaggeration, right? But it should look a little bit like this. So just launching a new book in a series is a great way to just boost the sales of the entire series, right? How can you get this series trickle-down effect to work even more in your favor, to be even more powerful? By running a tiered price promotion, right? For example, I'm launching book 3. I put book 1 free. I put book 2 at $0.99. And then book 3 is launching, right? What this strategy allows you to do is to first really boost the sales of the whole series, right? Run ads, book price promotions on different promo sites, and send a lot of traffic to your series page, right? If you launch a book 3 at $3.99, for example, you can drive the traffic to your series page, and on the series page, readers are going to be able to purchase the whole 3 books for just $4.98, right? If book 3 is at $3.99, they're going to get 3 books for $4.98, which is a great deal, right? So yeah, running that kind of price promotion is usually the best way to launch a new book in the series. If you're launching, one caveat I will say is if you're in Kindle Unlimited, as I said, the more aggressive you are with the promos, the better. So this would be a great aggressive promotion if you're in Kindle Unlimited. If you're wide, maybe you don't want to go this aggressive. So maybe book 1 goes at $0.99 and book 2 goes at $2.99. I don't know. Or maybe book 1 goes free, but book 2 remains at the same price, because wide retailers reward first in series free quite a lot. So you want to experiment with that. But I will say that if you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can afford to be a lot more aggressive with your promos, right? All right, so that's the first step. You set up a price promo. Obviously, I said that price promotions, discounts, free deals are the best way to get a ton of traffic. That traffic will not arrive on your book page by magic, right? You need to kind of make that happen. You need to advertise or promote this discount or deal to people. And you have 2 types of channels for that. The first one is what we call in marketing inbound marketing channels. So these are channels that will reach an audience that is already familiar with you, or an audience you've already captured. What's that? The first one, your mailing list, right? Your mailing list is your number 1 launch tool. If you haven't released anything yet, you probably don't have a big mailing list or one at all. But the more you release throughout your career, the more you put books out there, the more you grow your audience, the bigger your mailing list becomes. And one of your big objectives should be to actually keep growing your mailing list, right? There are a bunch of ways to achieve that. So I'm going to give you kind of 6 tips from the most basic to the most advanced, right, on how to use your mailing list. The most basic one is to have a mailing list. You want an actual mailing list on an email, hosted on an email marketing system. I recommend MailerLite or ConvertKit. There are others out there like SendFox or There was another one for romance that was pretty cool, whose name I don't remember anymore. But there's also active campaign, constant contact. There's a bunch of different ones. If you're just starting out, MailerLite is probably where you want to set up your mailing list, right? All right. Next tip, have a reader magnet and a welcome automation. A reader magnet is basically a piece of content that you give for free in exchange for people to sign up to your mailing list, right? So it can be a bonus epilogue, it can be a free prologue, it can be deleted scenes, it can be a free novella, it can be a free novel, it can be several free novels. A lot of like the indie high sellers out there, check out, for example, Mark Dawson's webpage. I think he gives away several books as a reader magnet, right? That's a really powerful offer to get people on your mailing list. The more powerful, the higher that reader magnet will convert, usually. Then next tip, split your new release announcements, right? Once you start having a big enough mailing list, like, I don't know, 5,000 people or 10,000 people in there, remember what I said about spikes versus plateaus, right? You don't want a spike. So if you have a mailing list of 10,000 readers who actually like your books and read your books, and you email them on the same day, it's likely that they will all purchase your book, your new release, on the same day. So you'll get maybe thousands of sales on the same day. And then the next day, it'll be very hard to match that level of sales. So instead, if you've got a big engaged mailing list like that, what you can do is stagger the new release announcements, split them across several days to create that sales plateau. The advanced version of that is to obviously segment your list, split your announcement based on reader activity, right? If you write across multiple series and multiple pen names, you definitely want to segment people in your mailing list so that you know based on where they come from. If they signed up through the reader magnet of series A, then you want to tag them or segment them in your list so that you know that they're readers of your series A, and you email them, right, when you launch the next book in series A, but not necessarily when you launch a new book in a new pen name or in a different series, or at least they're not going to be in the same group, right? Next step, resend your launch announcements to non-openers, and that goes mostly for like people with bigger lists. When you send an email, obviously nowadays you'll get an open rate, right? The open rate is not an exact figure. It often overestimates, but it tells you, for example, okay, around 40% of people who received your email opened it, right? 40%, usually it's going to be really hard to have an open rate of more than 50, 60%, right? That's already really high. But that still means a 50% open rate that half the people you emailed didn't open your email. They don't know about your new release. So what do? You create a new campaign just for them, right? Where you resend the launch announcement. Not necessarily don't even need to edit it. Maybe you change the subject line or something like that to get them to open it, but you resend it just to the non-openers to maximize the amount of people who open your new release announcement. Don't do that with every single newsletter, right? If you send a newsletter telling people what you've done in the past week as for hobbies, it's a nice way to engage your mailing list, but you don't need everyone to read that in your mailing list. You don't need everyone to open that email. A new release announcement, you need everyone or as many people as possible to open that, right? You want them to open that. So it's a good case for resending your launch announcements, sorry, to non-openers. And if you're really, really pro at email marketing, or you want to be pro at email marketing, one thing you can do is use a different email marketing system for the second email. So let's say you have your mailing list on MailerLite, right? You send your new release announcement through MailerLite, then you resend it to non-openers, and then there's still probably a good 30% of your list who hasn't opened your new release announcement. So then you upload that 30% segment to a different email marketing system like ConvertKit, for example, to send them a new release announcement again for a third time through a different email marketing system. Different EMSs will have different deliverabilities to different people. So by changing the EMS, you increase your chances of getting into people's actual inboxes rather than promotions or spam folders, etc. And so you can boost the deliverability to that remaining segment of your audience who hasn't opened your email. Other inbound channels you can leverage. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. But yeah, Facebook reader groups, social media pages. If you're big on TikTok or Instagram, definitely, post about your book at launch, engage with other people, get them to promote it, etc. BookBub new release alerts. Definitely claim your BookBub author profile, claim your book on there, and make sure that if you have any followers that they get your new release alerts. That's a free thing, right, that you can do. It's different from the BookBub new release deal, right? It's an alert that goes to your followers for free on BookBub. So make sure that you claim your BookBub profile, and if you have followers on there, that you basically claim your new release or announce your new release so that they get an alert. Facebook ads retargeting, right? Facebook ads is usually used as an outbound channel to reach people who are not yet familiar with you, but you can also use it to retarget people who are fans of your Facebook page or fans of your Instagram page or who are in your mailing list. You can upload your mailing list to Facebook and create a custom audience to retarget at launch. So those people who get your email and don't open it, or who get your email but don't buy the book, that then get retargeted through Facebook. So they hear about your book in multiple places. You can also run BookBub ads retargeting, where you can run an ad that goes just to your followers on BookBub, right? So all those forms of retargeting are really positive to engage your inbound audiences. All right, that's to reach people who are already familiar with you, but how about getting sales from people who are not yet familiar with you, right? How do you engage cold audiences through outbound channels? That's the next step. The easiest way, both in terms of time investment, learning curve, and even probably the most economical, is to leverage price promotion sites. So these are basically sites like BookBub who have spent years and thousands, hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars of advertising spend to build audiences of readers, right? They have basically built big lists of readers segmented across different genres, who have one thing in common, is that they want to hear about deals, discounts, $0.99 or free deals. BookBub is the most famous one. It's really, really hard to get a BookBub featured deal for a discount or a free promo at launch, because you usually don't have enough reviews to be able to get that, right? However, you can apply for a BookBub new release deal. They're not as powerful as the featured deals, but they're still a bit powerful, especially if you do it in conjunction with a price drop, right? Other sites like BookBub, but much smaller, are, for example, Free Booksy, Bargain Booksy. Free Booksy for free deals, Bargain Booksy for $0.99 or like $1.99, $2.99 deals. Robin Reads, Hello Books, Fussy Librarian, BookSense, etc. So we've got actually a directory on Readsy. You've got the URL there, blog.readsy.com/book-promotion-price-services, where you can see a tiered list of the price promo services that we recommend. So you can book basically slots in those services newsletters and get your promo promoted to their whole list, which is really, really powerful. Another channel you can use is, instead of like relying on these audiences of other people have built, usually using Facebook or meta ads, is to run those meta ads yourself, right? Facebook and Instagram are great places to advertise discount promotions, and free deals. Facebook and Instagram are usually cold audiences, right? It's people who are browsing through their feed and they see an ad for a book. So in order for them to click on it and like go to Amazon and actually buy, it needs to be a really good incentive, right? Because it's not like Amazon ads where they're actually on the Amazon store looking to buy. These are much colder audiences. So that's why meta advertising works really well for deals. So some random tips that I want to give you on meta ads, because we don't have the time to do a full presentation on that. Number one tip is to use dynamic ads, especially if you're starting out. You don't have to do this if you're an expert with meta already. Actually, I don't recommend doing it if you're an expert already, because you can test more stuff on your own. But when you're starting out, they're pretty good for cross-testing different creatives, copy, calls to action. Well, meta automatically optimizes it for each format and user, right? So it's basically a shortcut to testing and optimization. And you want shortcuts when you're just starting out, and especially when you have a new release, because you've got only 30 days, to get sales. And if you're running a price promotion, you usually only have 5 or 7 days, right, to make the most of your ads. So you don't have a lot of time to test everything on your own, and that's where dynamic ads come in really handy. I recommend narrowing down your targeting by book-related interests: Kindle Store, eBooks, BookBub, Goodreads, iBooks, Kobo, etc. There's a new wave of like thinking when it comes to Facebook ads that you should not use interest targeting. I disagree with that to some extent for new release in particular, and for people new to advertising, right? Uh, if you're just starting out, Facebook has no data on what your product is, on what you're advertising, on who you actually want to reach. So you need to give Facebook a little bit of a helping hand in telling them, I actually want to reach readers who are interested in science fiction, right? If you tell Facebook, I want to reach anyone who's happy enough to click on this, it can go wrong very quickly. Once you have some data, once you've been running ads for some time, then by all means experiment with like broadening your targeting. But in the beginning, I would definitely recommend using specific interest targeting. Then another thing is to use Amazon attribution links to track your ads conversion. In your Amazon advertising dashboard, you have a section called reporting and data, I think, something like that. And there you can access Amazon attribution. What Amazon attribution does is it lets you create specific links to use in your various marketing channels. So if you run Facebook ads, you can use, let's say you run Facebook ads to a lead child audience, you can use an Amazon attribution link just for that audience, just for that ad. And that will tell you what the conversion is of that ad. So how many people land on your book page, and out of those, how many people buy the book. It's a great way to get conversion data. That conversion data is not 100% accurate by any means, right? It doesn't track very well multi-device. It's not great on mobile. It has there's a lot of limitations, right? So even if your Amazon attribution dashboard tells you that your conversion was only 2%, it probably wasn't. Probably was 3, 4, 5%, but at least gives you some data, and it allows you to compare apples versus apples, right? If you have one Facebook audience that is converting according to its attribution link at 10% versus another one that's converting at 3%, then you know that the other audience is actually much better, right? The first audience is much better in terms of conversion. And the last step is to use video ads. You can use those to build awareness ahead of the launch, right? For example, you put a trailer out there and you just optimize those for video views. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow you to create a custom audience of all the people who view your trailer ad, which you can then retarget at launch, which actual buy my book ads, right? So it's kind of two-step tiered advertising, leveraging video views to build an audience. Another great channel that I like is Amazon ads, right? Amazon ads, I wouldn't recommend them specifically for new releases. I would definitely leverage them for new releases, but they can work great overall, right? Even to push the back catalog. Facebook ads, I would definitely recommend for new releases and deals. Amazon ads can work for anything. The great thing about Amazon ads is that you reach people at a time and place where they are primed to buy, right? So it's not necessarily a warm audience. They're not necessarily familiar with you, but they have a warmer intent when it comes to kind of buying the book afterwards. So some quick tips, and by the way, I have a full book on Amazon ads for authors with a lot more tips, so definitely check that one out. It's on all retailers. Ironically, it's a book on Amazon ads that is actually white. So you can get your ebook or paperback or hardback copy on any retailer. But I'll give you some quick tips here. So first, always set up a mix of automatic and manual targeting campaigns. The reason for that is automatic campaigns can work really, really well. And usually after advertising, they're the campaigns that work best for advertisers, but only if they have had data, right? The data in the beginning, when you create your advertising account or you start advertising a new book or series and you set up an auto campaign, Amazon who doesn't know who to target with the auto campaign because it has no data on sales on the book. So always create manual campaigns at the same time, because the automatic one will learn from the results of the manual ones. It will take inspiration from that for its targeting. Then segment your campaigns into ad groups. I always use ad groups. I never use custom text. I always use standard campaigns with ad groups, and don't include more than 20, 30 keywords per ad group, right? Or ASINs. The reason for that is if you include more, if you include 50, 100, or 500, Amazon will only really focus on 20 or 30, right? The other ones are going to get ignored in terms of impressions and clicks. So it's kind of a waste. They sit there collecting dust. They don't cost you money, but they also don't get you data, so you don't know if they're good or not. And you actually want to be able to test targets as quickly as possible. So split those. Then increase bids by 5-10% every week on targets that have received fewer than 1,000 total impressions. those are targets that are not delivering, right? They don't get impressions, so they don't get you data. You don't know whether they're good or not. And since they're not delivering, what you need to do is raise their bids so that they get delivered. If they start getting impressions, then you can make decisions. They get impressions but no clicks. They hurt your CTR. You post them. They get clicks but no sales. They hurt your spend and your ROI. So you post them, right? But you need them to get impressions in the first place. Otherwise, you'll have an Amazon advertising account that spends like $2-3 a day and does nothing, and you'll be like, Amazon ads don't work. No, it's just that your bids are too low, right? You need to raise them. So there's actually a really cool tool called booksflyer.com that is currently in beta. It is run by my partner, Sarah, so I am slightly biased on recommending it, but I use it myself, and I really do think it's a fantastic tool for authors where you can set up custom rules for bid optimization. So you can actually say every week or every day, please raise the bids of all the targets that have not delivered in the past month by 5% or by 10%. And it's going to do it automatically for you in the background, so you don't have to spend any time looking for those and making those changes, which can be hugely time consuming. Same thing goes for the click-through rate, right? I recommend monitoring your click-through rate and putting targets with a click-through rate under 10% if they haven't driven any sale, under 0.10%, sorry, if they haven't driven any sales or reads, right? If they haven't generated any revenue. Again, you can use a tool Booksflyer to set an automated rule that says exactly that. If a target has generated zero in income and has had more than 1,000 impressions and has a click-through rate below 0.10%, then pause it, right? That's a rule that I almost always set on the tool to boost the click-through rate of my campaigns. And my final tip here, you remember when we were talking about also boats, I told you I would give some tips on how to make sure you don't pollute your also boats at launch. Well, my tip here is to run Amazon ads while your book is on pre-order. Now, those ads are not going to convert very well, right? Because fewer people like to buy on pre-order. They're not going to be profitable, probably for that same reason, right? You're going to lose money, but they're going to generate the few sales they're going to generate are going to start populating your also boats, right? And with Amazon ads, you can be very, very specific as to the other authors or titles that you target. So if you only target ultra relevant titles with those pre-order ads, you will generate some ads that will populate some really, really specific and relevant also bots, right? So you already have a kind of base of relevant also bots at launch, so that if you start running a promo that gets a lot of sales, that also bot space already tells Amazon where your book fits in the market and whom to recommend your book to. Other channels you can use, newsletter swaps. I love newsletter swaps because that's like when two authors work together to basically swap mail lists. I have a new release coming next week, so can you include a mention in it or like email your list about it to tell them, hey, my good friend and like author in the same genre is releasing, it's just releasing this book, grab a copy here, or is releasing this new book and it's at $0.99 for this week, so it's a great deal. And then in the future, when that person will have a new release or a promo, you can obviously mention that to your list. So that's a concept of like newsletter swaps. They're one of the most powerful forms of marketing by far, because you get your book recommended with an element of trust in the middle, right? BookBub advertising. I'm not great at BookBub ads. I know Brian Burney is probably better than I am. There's some people out there. David Gogren's really good at BookBub ads, so get his book if you want to try it. But they're a really interesting channel also because, like Amazon ads, you're able to reach a very, very, very targeted audience. And unlike Amazon ads, you can scale those better once they start working, right? But yeah, I'm personally never had a ton of success with them, but I know a lot of people who have. Influencer marketing, right? If you're on TikTok, Instagram, etc., you can reach out to influencers on there, to like big TikTokers, send them your book for free. Usually, if you want to get their attention, you'll want to send more than a digital copy, right? You want to send them a proper physical copy. A lot of publishers do this where they send like book boxes to influencers to get them to talk about the books that they're releasing, where they send a box with a hardback plus like all the stuff in there. Sometimes there's flowers or things related to the theme of the book that make the box extra special. and the TikTokers or Instagrammers can do this unboxing video of this new book that Penguin sent me, etc. You're not Penguin Random House, but you can do that same thing. It will cost a bit of money, but if you already have some ties to those communities, I think having those ties in the first place is important. Then you can get some really, really good success from influencer marketing. So I talk about TikTok, and I'll also go to in-person events. Those, in my opinion, are less effective in terms of like time investment and like the reward you get out of it. But if you like selling direct, at in-person events, they can be a good idea. Like DragonCon, for example, for fancy authors. And any other creative ideas you might have to engage, cold audiences. For that, I will say take inspirations from other successful authors in your niche. See what channels they've been using. Are they on TikTok? Do they run Facebook ads? Do they run Amazon ads? Do they have, reader groups on Facebook or on Discord? Where do they engage with their audience, and where do they try to find new readers? And that will give you a clue as to which tactics you can use on your own. And the final step is to put the whole plan together, right? So I showed the spreadsheet earlier, but this is what a plan for a new release of book 3 could look like, right? That would be for a release of book 3, like the one I mentioned earlier, where you put book 1 free, book 2 at $0.99, and then you launch book 3. So what do? You leverage your inbound channels. On day 1, you email half your mailing list, and then you email the second half on day 2 because you've got a big mailing list. On day 3, you post in your Facebook reader group, and then on day 5, you send you reactivate the non-openers through a different email marketing system to get a maximum of people to maximize your exposure to your mailing list. On day 1, you launch that, you run that book up new release alerts, and then you're on TikTok, so you do daily TikTok videos about your launch to get as many people in your TikTok audience and in TikTok in general and BookTok to hopefully come across your videos and your book. And then you run meta ads retargeting your mailing list plus your page followers to again maximize your exposure to your mailing list. And then outbound channels at the same time. Well, you pick a different price promotion site every day. So you start with Robin Reads on day 1. You do that on book 1, that is free. Robin Reads is probably one of the most powerful ones after BookBub. Then you do free Booksy, which is also really powerful on book 1 on day 2. So these will boost the free downloads of book 1, right? But as a trickle effect, you'll probably get some sales of book 3 as well as a result. Then on day 3, you'd run a bargain Booksy on book 2. Book 2 is at $0.99. It's not free, so you cannot use free Booksy for it. You use bargain Booksy. Then you use a new in books from Written Word Media for book 3. That's a new release alert, new release deal. And then Fussy Library on book 1 for day 5, etc. This is just an example, right? And then you schedule a few newsletter swaps with authors and Facebook posts with other authors as well throughout there. And throughout the whole period, you run Meta and BookBub ads because those are the platforms that have worked for you in the past, right? That's an example, right? A fictional example of what a marketing plan could look like for a 5-day price promotion at launch. You create your own plan. Again, I'll give you this example of a spreadsheet, which you can screenshot if you want, and take as an example. But it's the same basic principle as this one. It's organizing your activity so that you know exactly what you're going to do each day. And finally, can you actually hire someone to help you with all this? Because it is a lot of work. And the answer for that is, yes and no. You can find people to help with different elements of this. There are definitely people out there, in particular in Readsy, whom you can hire to create a marketing plan for you. Just for the creation, the ideation of the marketing plan and like advice on execution, you should budget like a good $1,000 to $3,000. That does not mean that they will execute it for you. You will be the one to have to execute it, right? So it's just getting an experienced professional to research all the best avenues and prepare your page and your metadata as best as possible. Prepare your book for success, basically, for the marketing plan. That can be a really worthwhile investment if you don't have a ton of experience in marketing. And this is, or you really want to push the next book and you want a real professional to kind of work on the marketing plan with you. Other areas where you can hire someone, ads management. If you want someone to run ads just for your promo, it's going to be between $500 to $1,500 per month, depending on how many platforms you want to be, depending on the spend, depending on how many products you're going to advertise, etc. And then you can also hire someone for your Amazon metadata, right? That can actually be a really good idea if you're not great at writing your blurb if you don't want to spend time researching keywords and categories, or you don't have Publisher Rocket and you don't want to invest in those tools, you can hire someone. There are experts out there in blurb writing and metadata that can actually do this job for you. So when should you outsource, right? I like to use this kind of matrix to explain when, as an author, you should outsource marketing activities. There are 4 factors: whether you're good at it or not good at it, and whether you enjoy doing it or not, right? If you are good at something and you enjoy doing it, like you're good at copywriting and you enjoy writing blurbs, don't outsource it, right? It makes no sense. Why are you going to outsource it if you enjoy doing it and you're good at it, right? If you're not good at it, but you enjoy doing it, for example, you like writing your blurbs for whatever reason. I don't know why anyone would ever like that, but let's say you like it, but you're not good at it, then maybe take a course, right? Take a course on blurbs, or like read a book or learn from others. Like basically try to improve your skills because you like doing it, so you can keep doing it, but you need to get better. So learn how to get better. Pay for a course or a consultant. You can, instead of hiring someone to write your blurb, hire someone to write your blurb with you and teach you how they do it, right? Sometimes it's better to work with someone one-on-one on your stuff than to pay for a course, right? It's kind of a crash course applied to your own specific scenario. Then if you're good at it, but you don't enjoy doing it, I would say start doing it because you're good at it, but then progressively, before you burn out, it's important, before you burn out, hand it over. Outsource when you have the means to do it, right? Once you make enough money, outsource that activity, because otherwise you run the risk of burning out because you don't enjoy doing that, right? Since you're good at it, though, once you outsource, you'll be able to judge whether that person is doing it well or not. Or maybe you've hired a virtual assistant instead of a professional marketer, and you teach them how to do it because you're good at it, right? But outsource only when you have the means to. And finally, if you're not good at it and you don't enjoy doing it, if you suck at writing blurbs and you hate writing blurbs, then that can be a good case for hiring someone to do it for you. Where can you find people? Obviously, I have to recommend Rita here. We have a selection of around 20 book marketers. That's not a lot because there's not a lot of marketers out there who are really good. You'll find Brian Burney, for example, who's one of the founders of Fiction Marketing Academy. You'll find several other people specializing in Amazon ads, Facebook ads, marketing strategy, marketing plans, email marketing, etc. So you can search the marketplace by genre, select a few people, and then send them a brief saying exactly what you'd like them to do, and they'll get back to you with quotes. And finally, I'll leave you with this link here to my free book on how to market a book that is free on all retailers. You can also grab it through this book, blog.rita.com/books/how to market a book with hyphens in there. So go grab it. Again, it's free. It has a lot of information on there. I update it around every 3 to 6 months with the latest information. So all the info in there is up to date, which probably cannot be said about a lot of marketing books out there. And that's it. Thank you for listening to this. If you have any questions about the presentation, you've got my email address again here. So don't hesitate to send me any questions or just to email me about how your next launch goes. I hope it goes well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.